I really enjoy coming to Bitcoin events, Bitcoin gatherings in Latin America. There is a bit of a different energy in the room when it comes to Bitcoin. And in this part of the world, sometimes gatherings almost feel like political rallies in the best sense of the word. And I think that has to do with the fact that over here, I think Bitcoin really represents freedom in a very tangible way. It means that I have access to my money and nobody can change that. It means it's not going to happen that one day I'm going to walk to my Bitcoin bank and it's going to be closed.
Bitcoin is so new. It's only been 7 years. It's a completely new asset class. Like what I said, it's like as if gold was invented just 7 years ago. And now you have like one of the first conferences about gold. And obviously everybody's wondering like, oh, like how should I buy it? Like what, how do I store my Bitcoins, my gold? I went to the Bitcoin conference in 2012 in London. And it was like some hackers sitting together, like, you know, like you and I just chatting, and some coders, and there was like not an idea that this could like business people would get involved. Like there was maybe like 3-4 entrepreneurs there, and they were all very young. So it was hard to see back then what Bitcoin is today.
So I'm Kurt Robertson. I'm here with Tuur Demeester, and he's going to tell us a bit about some financial analysis he's been doing, and something about his newsletter, which is launching soon. How are you?
Doing great.
Great. What do you think of the La BitConf so far?
Oh, it's been really... I had a blast so far. It's been exciting. I was at the La BitConf 2 years ago in Buenos Aires. It's really interesting to see how like businesses have developed. I was just talking to the CEO of a local Bitcoin exchange, and he was like, back then it was like a little exchange and just starting out. That's just 2 years ago. Now they have integrated with exchanges in Brazil and India and China, and it's really incredible to see how things are growing and getting more and more mature. But the excitement is still there, the same. It's not like this kind of cool businessy thing. This is really still the place where the revolution is happening. Yeah.
Cool. Well, today when we rocked up, I was a little worried. I mean, Aaron, my buddy here, brought his suit, and I didn't. And I was like, are we going to be hanging around with a bunch of corporate types, and I'm dressed in jeans?
Yeah. No, there's different Bitcoin conferences. Like there's more formal ones. There's ones that are more about like how to, like if you go to a New York conference, yeah, you will see more suits than you see around here. It really depends. But that's the nice thing about Bitcoin. There's something for everyone, and it's not because the suits aren't there that there's not serious business going on as well. It's just it's really open for very different cultures and backgrounds, and that's what I think is exciting about it.
Yep. Was there anything particularly striking what you heard about today?
Well, as I said, the exchange, I thought that was really incredible. I mean, I have an account with them, and I didn't even realize. And I asked them, like, so how long does it take to send money from, Mexican pesos to Chinese yuan? And he's like, oh, it depends on the time zone, but it can be, like, as fast as 2 hours. And I was like, wow. And like, I mean, yeah, these kind of things just really amaze me at that. And obviously also, Rootstock got more explained. Like, basically, we have sidechain technology that's really hitting the ground now. Like things that like people are really building infrastructure on top of Bitcoin, new protocols that will allow for example, emission of shares. You can, your own company, you can basically go public on the blockchain. You don't need to like call NASDAQ or call some very large and bureaucratic stock exchange. You can like do it yourself. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have growing pains, but the fact that it's possible, it's super exciting, I think.
Yeah, cool. So I missed your talk today, but can you give us a little hint about what you talked about?
Yeah, sure. It was basically a Q&A. Like I had a presentation prepared, but I did want to open up the floor because the subject was how to invest in Bitcoin, and it's it's a really big issue. Like, it's really important to talk about this stuff because Bitcoin is so new. It's only been 7 years. It's a completely new asset class. Like what I said, it's like as if gold was invented just 7 years ago. And now you have like one of the first conferences about gold. And obviously everybody's wondering like, oh, like how should I buy it? Like what, how do I store my Bitcoins, my gold? All these very basic questions are super important because it's something the world has never seen before. Like Bitcoin is an entirely new asset class. And also like even just talk about what is it? If you're gonna buy some, like is it cash? Is it a financial asset? Are you speculating? Is it, you know, and different people have different answers, but based on what you think is your answer, that is really going to inform the kind of decisions you're going to make with it. So we talked about that. It was interesting. And people had some practical questions too about how to do it here in Mexico, how to do high frequency trading with Bitcoin, how it's going to evolve in the next few months and years. So we talked about that.
Can you tell me when was the moment when the light bulb kind of switched on and you first realized that Bitcoin might have the power to change the world or change a financial industry?
I got introduced to Bitcoin from friends in Argentina while I was traveling in Argentina, and they just were so insistent, like, you have to study this, you have to study this. And I had a background in Austrian economics, and I was always, I mean, I studied financial history as well, and I just knew how dangerous it is to have money in the hands of government and what can happen with it, and then the kind of financial crises that come out of that, business cycles, etc. So to have this, I think the light bulb moment for me was when I realized, like, oh my God, it really is scarce. It really has a finite amount of Bitcoins. You cannot just create more of them out of thin air. That was like, wow, this is super powerful. And of course, in combination with it being open source, you know, anybody can run the node, and then connecting that with what I knew about BitTorrent, like, oh, we already have a system that works, that cannot be stopped or controlled by anyone. 20% of the data volume on the internet is basically BitTorrent. Maybe it's a little less now, but it's about that. So putting those things together was like, oh my God, this could be amazing. And then from then on, it was like, all right, I think the genie is out of the bottle. I think this revolution is going to happen. I just don't know if Bitcoin is strong enough, if the code is strong enough. Maybe there's some weaknesses. Maybe we could have a crisis for a few years. I mean, things were... I went to the Bitcoin conference in 2012 in London, and it was like... some hackers sitting together, like, you know, like you and I just chatting, and some coders, and there was like not an idea that this could like business people would get involved. Like there was maybe like 3-4 entrepreneurs there, and they were all very young, so it was hard to see back then what Bitcoin is today.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I had the same kind of realization, or the click in my head, when I was like, hang on, BitTorrent like totally disrupted the music industry and the movie industry, and Bitcoin is going to do the same thing, or cryptocurrency is going to do the same thing for the finance industry. So we were having a conversation before about a little bit about some problems in the Australian economy. Like say with Glencore or BHP Billiton, people are saying that Glencore is like over leveraged, and they've released all these assets which may be toxic, and they're held by companies all over the world. Of course, it's hard to speculate, but what kind of effects do you think that could have on the world economy?
Right. Well. So what the big picture to me is what we've seen in the past 30 years is that interest rates have been lowered by central banks. So money has become cheaper and cheaper. And what you get when money is very cheap is you get bubbles. You get bubbles everywhere. And one of those bubbles was in the commodities sector. We had a huge commodity boom in over 10 years' time. And obviously, you know, over 10 years is a long time, and so people adjust to that, and they start making extrapolations based on the past. It's like, oh, well, yeah, commodity is going to stay high. Oil is going to be at 100 or 120. Copper is going to be at 5 or higher. And so corporations start making projections. They're like, oh, well, let's build this new copper mine and let's, borrow a lot of money to do that. And that's how, it's not irrational. In hindsight, you could say it's not very wise, but in the context at the time, it was reasonable to make those plans and to incur all that debt. The same goes with the real estate. Like, if you live in Australia and you have a regular family, you might make the assumption that, I think you mentioned it's been going up. Maybe not straight up, but at least the trend has been going up for about 30 years in real estate. So people make assumptions based on that, like, oh, your house, it's something certain, and it's okay to go in debt because you have the value of your house. You can always sell it if you need money. And so, yeah, I think it's the base cause of these problems is money printing, and we're now seeing some huge volatility based on the fact that volatility has been suppressed by central banks for a long time. And when you have suppressed volatility, this is not me saying that, but I think it's true. Raoul Pal mentioned it. He says, when you suppress volatility, in the end you get hypervolatility. So basically, we've seen central banks step in every time there was a little bit of a dip in the stock markets. They just pushed massive amounts of money in the market to push it up again. But what have we seen now is we see volatility everywhere. The Swiss franc has done crazy moves that nobody expected. Oil has crashed. If you look at copper, it's been going below $3. People call copper they call it Dr. Copper because it's like a barometer for global economic activity. So when you see the copper price go down, because so much industrial growth is related to copper. If you want to build a factory or a house, or for all that stuff, you need copper. So I think this is not the end. I think this is the start of some big trouble in the markets. And who is suffering? It is commodities-related markets, because it's the demand is going down. If you're worried about paying off your loans, you're not going to invest in something new. You're trying to survive, and you're trying to just do with the bare minimum. And then banks see that more and more people start defaulting on their loans, so they're also less eager to loan out more money. And so this whole cycle has been. I think it's the start. So I think we are going to see even weaker currencies in emerging markets and in Australia, unfortunately. I think real estate is going to, eventually also go down, expressed in strong currencies like the dollar. I think being active in the cloud and on the internet is a good idea. If you can be active internationally, you can be flexible. But if you have your money tied up in Australian real estate, or if you have a lot of money tied up in mining somehow, I think that is a risky place to be right now.
Okay.
Sorry about the long answer. I hope it was somehow coherent.
No, that was great. That was fantastic. So let's see. Well, the thing that this brings up too as well is the interplay between Bitcoin as this sort of emerging economy, and these, on the other hand, these economies which may be collapsing in the near future. And I guess it's even harder to speculate on how that interplay would work. But do you have any ideas?
Yeah, that's why I'm so why I'm so excited about Bitcoin, because it's in a way it can become one of the ultimate safe haven instrument. It can become the ultimate place to park your money for a short time or a long time, and then use it later to invest. Because really, if you look at the financial system, take reserve ratios of bank. What does it mean? You can look at a bank as a parking garage. Okay, people park their cars in the parking garage. It's like your money. You park it there, and then you expect to pick it up later, right? But what happened, and it started happening about 100 years ago, is that imagine if you park your car in a garage, and all of a sudden the garage starts paying you money for that. Really? What's going on? Why am I not paying the garage instead of the other way around? Until one day you walk around the building and you see a big sign. It says, cars for hire. And they're basically renting out your money. And then when enough people come back to get back their cars, all of a sudden, oh, we're bankrupt. I'm really sorry. Did you really think that it was still your car? No. Of course not. You gave it to us. And legally speaking, that's what happens. When you put money in the bank, you're lending it to the bank. It's no longer your money. And so when enough people, like in Cyprus, right? And of course in many other places earlier on, when enough people go to the bank and pull out their money, all of a sudden the bank has no money left, because the reserve ratio, the amount of money that they have left in the vaults that they have not lent out, is about, if I'm generous, I would say it's about 2 to 5%. So if you and I and another 5% of the people that have money in one particular bank go get the money out, it's over. It's like a dance of chairs where, there's only one chair and there's 100 people. So that's why I think Bitcoin is fantastic, because you can really own and control your own money. And then also on top of that, you can spend it or send it, share it however you want globally. Anybody that has an email address or even a phone number, you can send that money to, which I think is going to serve a very important. It's going to play an important role in this crisis. And I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I think this is something for the next 10 years to play out. Interest rates are the lowest they've been in 1,000 years. Like, this stuff is just, if you look at the amount of money printing that's going on, the amount of debt in the world, it is just, these are historically, if you even go back 500 years, this stuff has not happened before. So that's, I think, is kind of the people always ask, like, oh, what is going to be the tipping point for Bitcoin? And it's always like, oh, well, people are going to start, maybe having a little game on their smartphone, or they're going to, use it. I think it's going to be very simple. Like, it's going to be a safe haven. It's just going to be your own bank account.
So kind of like people run out of all other options. Like every other fiat currency looks unsafe, and they're like, oh, what are we going to do? And they panic and run into Bitcoin, something like that.
Yeah, at least, I'm not saying that this is not like advice, like, oh, you should put all your money in Bitcoin. If you want to prepare yourself for a crisis, I think it's a fantastic idea to insure the cash that you have, to see Bitcoin as an insurance policy, and to put maybe 0.5% of your money, your cash, into Bitcoin, maybe 1%. Because if this scenario, and some people say that, oh, it's really unlikely that it'll happen and that I'm wrong. Well, but if the scenario happens, then you have this insurance, and Bitcoin really is going to go much, much higher than it is today if we are really going to see all these problems in the banking system, because it's all the same, and it's a global system. So once you're inside, there's really nowhere to hide. You really give your there's a million ways I can say it, but yeah, I think Bitcoin will play an important role.
Okay, fantastic. Do you want to mention your newsletter that you're working on?
Sure. My website is adamantresearch.com, and we're putting out a newsletter called the Adamant Newsletter. It's not out yet, but people who are curious about Bitcoin, I would recommend Google how to position for the rally in Bitcoin and Adamant Research. It's a free report. It's 17 pages. I think it's fantastic content. I worked on it for months, and it's just, go ahead and download it. Send me a question on Twitter. I'm active there too. I'm always excited to share what I know about Bitcoin. And
what's your Twitter?
Twitter is just Tuur Demeester, my full name. So if you have somewhere below my name, you can just Google it. I think it's the number one result. It's my Twitter account.
Okay, great. Thanks, Arthur. Thanks so much for talking to us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for opening your bright, wide eyes and casting them on this magical spell that we're sending out towards the universe. And thank you to all those supporters who have generously donated a little bit of money, given us some tips to support what we're doing. It does mean a lot to us, because it means that not only are these transmissions reaching your brainwaves, but they're also having a little effect in changing those brainwaves for the better, putting a smile on your face and generating a feeling of everlasting satisfaction within your soul. So thanks to Brad, thanks to Sergey, Florent, and these anonymous contributors here, sending some cash to us through the Bitcoin tube. So we received a donation for 0.000594 BTC, 0.002302 BTC, and 0.01337 BTC. Now that's a lucky number if I ever heard it. And remember, guys, you can buy some Bitcoin themed t-shirts or real money themed t-shirts. So if you want to show your loathing for central banking and the ominous, nefarious, anonymous people behind that strange shadow banking cartel that control the world, you can head on over to the paradiseparadox.com and click on the t-shirts link, and that's going to give you an insight into our real money t-shirt with gold, silver and Bitcoin, so you can show your support for sound currency, real money and all that good stuff. So have a look at that. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for being amazing, and we'll talk to you soon.